is my son's bedroom. I guess it rained a little bit when we were out, and all this plaster fell off the ceiling. Here's a big chunk of it. And luckily, this is where my son sleeps. This is where he usually puts his head. I don't know if the Stephen King book's gonna be all right. Captain Underpants is not doing so good here. So, you know what was the first thing I did when I saw this? I closed the door. What you have to realize is when you're in an older house, there could be asbestos in anything. Since I was calling around doing my research, I found out that most of these small asbestos contractors send their samples to a company called ProLabs. So I called ProLabs myself and I asked them if I could bring in a sample too, and they said yes. Anyway, I sent all of that in to ProLabs myself, and it shipped to Florida, and it came back negative for asbestos. And I'm now gonna start the process of fixing this myself. Again, I'm just a graphic designer. I'm a web designer. I'm not a contractor. I'm not a drywall guy, handyman, nothing like that. But I need to save money, and I think I can do this by myself. So first thing I'm gonna do, I'll show you what I got. This thing was about $10. It's just so you don't get dusty and dirty all in your clothes and bring it all in the house. I also have a like a particle mask, I guess what it's called, and a pair of goggles. This is Stanley. This was also $10. And I grabbed this. You pump this to get the pressure, and then when you press this handle, it can spray water. So what I want to do is, here's the plan. I'm going to take off the plaster, but I'm going to leave those wooden slats. I don't want to demo all those slats out, because if I start knocking those slats out, all my blown in insulation in the attic is going to fall down, and I don't want to deal with that. So hopefully, if all goes according to plan, here, I'll show you something actually. You got to see this. Look at those fibers there. That'd be interesting if that was horsehair from a horse long dead. You all right, Yoda? Looks like you've seen some stuff.
Plaster leads to lath. Lath leads to drywall.
Anyway, up here, it's separated. I could push that. It has a lot of this ceiling is separated from here, so I think it's doable. All right, so first thing I'm gonna do, clean up all this, get it out, take all my son's stuff out, get it out of the room. Once this room's empty, I'm gonna start the next process.
Yeah, we're about to tear the roof off this mother.
Now that the room has been cleared and cleaned, I'm gonna put a high-powered fan in the window. To protect the floor, I've taped thick Vapour Barrier down. I also taped around the fan to create an air seal, and as well as the door frame with a little window to draw the air in once the fan is turned on. This step, skip it. It wasn't needed. My idea was to wet the ceiling to keep the dust low, but the fan worked so well, all this did was made my life a little bit harder. Next was time to clean up all of this plaster. That involved collecting it in bins and throwing it out. That night we had heavy rainfall, and it allowed me a chance to see where some leaks were coming in before. As you can see here, I got to address this problem before I put the drywall up. So here's us getting a new roof. What you see here is framing that's being installed first, on top of which a metal roof will be installed. Once the roof was installed, I continued the drywalling. Okay, ready to do some work in here now. Here are all my supplies right now. Here's my plan. It's gonna show me how to lay the drywall out most efficiently. Got a hawk for applying mud. Got some drywall screws. These are 6x2, and these are the ones I actually need to put the drywall in, but I'm gonna use these in certain circumstances. I know I need one of these because there wasn't one installed. The sandpaper is to make sure these putty knives don't have any little nicks or rust or anything on them. I cleaned them with them. Here's a sponge, some paper tape to use for the drywall and mud. Here's a round sander. I'm going to use like this guy showing you. I've decided to try to use dust control drywall premix compound just because it's going to make my life a lot easier right now. But I will be using sheetrock 90 I'm going to mix to fill in any gaps that I know is going to happen, like up there. I know I got to deal with that first. Measuring tape, got a drill. I also spent $5 and got these. These help make sure that you don't punch a hole through your drywall by accident when you're screwing in the screws using your tools. I need something like this right now though. I got this platform I'm going to use. It's going to make my life a lot easier when I'm standing up here trying to drill everything in there. Oh, here's a problem. Look how this looks. These wires are just coming out of this wood. I'm gonna have to cut this and secure it to a beam right here. This box. So let's do a before and after. Here it is before I do anything. If you don't know what this is, it's a drywall installer. It's used for hanging drywall on a ceiling. And the cool thing about it is you can do this all by yourself.
I'm using 1/2-inch drywall up here.
I'm hanging drywall all by myself. I'm hanging drywall all by myself. I went to Home Depot and got this gizmo. Home Depot and got this gizmo.
Finding the studs to drill the drywall into in an old house with lath is really hard to do. So I preemptively marked them on a piece of tape so I knew where to drill into. If you want to find out more about these drywall hangers, there's lots of videos on YouTube and you can rent them at Home Depot or Lowe's.
Screw that drywall into the lath. Screw the drywall into the lath. Don't make a big hole. Make a little hole. We're using 6x1 and 5/8 screws. We're drilling into the lath. We ain't using glue.
Here's how it looks with all the drywall screwed in there. I have to add a lot more screws. Here's my first pass at putting plaster on. I've plastered the screws and I've put tape in. There were some deep crevices here because nothing's square in this old house, but this wasn't a big deal. I just added a few layers of plaster to fill that in. Don't rush this process. It took me 2 weeks to do all this. I've got the Vapour Barrier taped to the door frame again, and I've got another fan in the window because I'm about to sand this plaster. Now you can see the round sander in action. I couldn't have done it without this thing. This thing's a huge help. Once the ceiling is nice and smooth, you can fill in any little imperfections that you see. So here, for example, I've sanded a bit too much and I can see the tape. So I'm going to just put a little bit of plaster on top of there, just to help smooth it out again. Just to make my life easier when I'm painting, I'm going to clear off all the dust particles that are left on the ceiling after I've sanded.
You gotta brush that dust off your ceiling. You gotta brush that.
If, like me, you dropped a lot of plaster on the carpet, it's not really that big of a deal. I'm going to show you how you can just scrape it off real quick.
There you go. Just like new.
Now the wife won't get mad at you. The painting stage was too boring to film. I skipped it. Now you're seeing the final product. Remember how this room used to look?
Like a nightmare.
Oh my goodness, look at that beautiful ceiling.
Ooh, what a nice sunny day.
Look how smooth that surface is. It's like a wedding cake. It's like a wedding cake. It's like a wedding cake. Look how smooth that surface is. It's like a wedding cake. I decided to surprise my son. He hasn't seen his room yet.
Surprise!
Atta boy. Poor kid was staying in the guest room all this time. There you have it, folks. Check the description. There you have it, folks. If you got to replace your plaster ceiling, don't be scared. I did it by myself. I'm going to leave a lot more information in the description, so make sure you check that out. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope I helped somebody.